Hello, everyone. Welcome to COVID Conversations with Bobby Newman and Bobby Rogers. They have partnered to shed a light on how COVID has affected our special needs population. Dr. Bobby Newman is a world-renowned psychologist and behavior analyst and author of many publications, books such as Move with a Purpose and Behavior Detectives. Bobby Rogers is a parent advocate, nonprofit founder, and director of Proud Moments Therapy in Syracuse, New York. Today, they will be interviewing Danielle Hudson. Danielle is the mother of 3 beautiful children, 2 of which have IEPs. Danielle has a degree in special education and currently is a caseworker in the foster care arena. Bobby, why don't you begin?
Welcome, Hudson family. I'm so excited that you're here today. Thank you for taking time to come be with us and to talk about how this year has been for you. I'm really excited to hear your thoughts. You guys are amazing. I've known you for a while and I just think you're extraordinary. So having you here is an honor for me. If we could start by having you guys introduce yourself. So tell us your name, your age, and one cool or interesting thing about you.
I'm Nadia. What's your age? 15. And what's the cool thing about you? Can't go to the mall. You can't go to the mall. What's the cool thing about Nadia? What do you like to do? Do you like to exercise? Exercise and things? Playing marbles. Yep. Very good. Thank you. Your turn.
My name is Isaiah, and I'm 13 years old.
What's the cool thing about you?
And I'm Sesame Street and dancing too.
Go ahead. Your turn.
I'm Talia and I'm 9 years old and I like going to dance and I like hanging out with my friends and calling my friends.
I like going dance too. Yes.
And I'm Danielle. I am forever 25, and yeah, these are my kiddos. And something cool about me is that I really love to read.
And you are a beautiful family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So it sounds like there's a lot of dancing happening in the Hudson family. A lot of you talked about dancing, huh? You guys do a lot of that? Yeah. So this year was a little bit different. School was different. Seeing your friends was a little different. Celebrating birthdays looked differently. What was good about this year and some of those differences, and what wasn't so good?
When I can't go to the mall I can't go to the Destiny USA Mall, and I can't go to my favorite fun activities to go. Or my favorite places like tennis, basketball.
That was not good, huh? How about something that was good?
My good thing during the pandemic is that I have my birthday party drive-by.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, so Isaiah's birthday is in May, and everybody was feeling real real bad about where things were. And I think we had probably 30 to 35 cars drive by, teachers and friends and family, and just shoot him a whole bunch of love. And he jumped in the street the entire time, and he couldn't believe that everybody was there to love him so much. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Yep.
How about you, Nadia? What was some things that were hard this year for you? We can't go to swimming in the hotel and can't go to cheer and dance last year. Yeah. And I can't go to Strong Museum and go in Papa's Church too. Yeah. And my friends. You didn't get to see a lot of your friends. Yeah. And seeing Tammy and baby Sean. Yeah, your family.
So what was something that was pretty good about it, though? What did we get to do?
Delphi Falls.
So what did
Walking.
yeah, we said,
Clark Creation Parks and Delphi Falls.
yeah, we got water fun.
And my birthday drive-by, 15th birthday.
You had one too, right?
Dance and a dance characters.
I didn't like that I couldn't be with my friends and my distant family. That we couldn't do the stuff that we would usually do. And the good about it was like that I could do like game nights and we could watch movies with my close family. And I could at least call my friends and play games with them. So
It's nice. That's what Bobby said she liked about the pandemic also, was that her kids were home and they got to play games together and do things like that, And the way she joked about it, she said whether they liked it or not, because they had to be home with me to play games.
Yep. I told everybody that the governor said you have to play games with me. You're trapped with me. What about you, Danielle?
Well, I think I'll start with the positive because I think sometimes it was hard to find the positive, but I enjoyed that in the beginning. I saw, our community, our family, our bubble come together and sort of encourage each other. I saw, people, the same thing I felt after 9/11, that sense of bonding and in it together during the crisis. I felt, we walked down our street and people had painted their windows and, families were out and there was a lot of waving and really people reaching out to each other during a time that was hard. And that felt comforting. I think, there were many things that were challenging. I think learning a new normal for school for the kids and normal for me working from home, how to support my children, my parents, my family, and also the work that I do is supporting the children that I work with, and their mental health. So it was a lot on our shoulders. I feel like it was, it was heavy, and the heaviness got to be a lot. But I think an important thing for me was that we jumped into it super quickly. There wasn't a lot of time. It's something I, have reflected on, that typically a special needs parent has plan A through Z for everything we do. Well, if this goes wrong, we're going to do this. If this goes wrong, we're going to do that. I'm going to call this person. They're going to help us out. I'm going to park right here so we can get a quick getaway. We're filled with those plans, and this came so quickly that there was no time for any of that. And I honestly think it's a blessing because we just went rolling with it, and there was no time to stop and think and panic and worry. It happened in real time anyways, but I think all of us in this world would have been very heavy with the worry of it had we had time to prep for it. So.
That's such a good perspective, because that's such a good point. So I know from myself, not having preparation affected us so much that I don't think I thought of what you're saying, which is so true. If I had known in March, would that have actually helped? I don't know. So that's such a good point. And you were talking about hope. And so I just want to ask you about that, because for me, I felt like that word was a roller coaster as a mom. There were things like what you just said, looking at the community. I felt a lot of hope seeing that, just as a parent of vulnerable children, seeing how everybody came together, and that was that sense of caring about the person walking down the street, and noticing them maybe you didn't before. I felt hope. But then as this went on and on and on, I had a lot of nights where, fear kind of overtook hope. And, I write in my narrative, and you've written something similar that you got to from a different place, where there were days when I cried more than I smiled. That was just the reality. So I just would want your thoughts, because what a beautiful perspective you just gave that I didn't think of, on where you were on kind of the hope roller coaster.
Yeah, so even though I'm perpetually 25, I have, I've been around a little bit and worked in the mental health field with very vulnerable children. And something through that work, along with embedding myself in this world of autism, I've learned that there's two things that cause healing and success. There's more than that, but there's two profound spaces for me, and those are hope and belonging. And I think with those two things, we can often see growth in areas that we would have never seen growth. I've seen it in families dealing with grief. I've seen it in traumatized children, and I've seen it in our communities where, we're going through very tough things at times. And I think when we lose hope and when we lose a sense of belonging, we're stunted. We regress. It's hard to move forward. And I think the coronavirus, this pandemic, has challenged both of those thoughts. It's challenged our sense of hope, because in the beginning it was like, okay, well, get through this week. We'll be fine. The kids will be home, and yay, we can make cinnamon buns together and play games, and this will be fun, and I can see what they're doing in school. And then it turned into, okay, well, maybe it's April, and then it was May, and then it was the rest of the school year, and then it was no summer school, and then it was the fall. And, so, we have some concrete thinkers. I don't know if you know this, but we might have some concrete thinkers in our family, and they're really about consistently questioning when this is going to be over with, and I can't provide an answer for them. And that's hard. It's hard for me, it's hard for them. But I also think that as time has gone on, there's no definitive checkpoint that we can get to. The hope feels like it's harder to grasp, it's harder to pull, it's harder to hold on to. And that piece of belonging falls in line with that, because I think when you feel that belonging, it's up there with your most basic of needs for me. You feel like you belong in whatever way, whatever circle, whatever part you propelled into success. And I've worked very hard on those two things for my kids. I feel like as a mom, those are my guiding principles sometimes. And this led us away from that. So if Bobby's son was going to step up and be this hero and make this great rugby program, we were going to take advantage of it. These kids do not know what rugby is. We were going to try it, and we were going to get along with the next kid, trying to, maybe we'd make a friend. They see Bobby's son, and they know who he is. Talia connected to him because he's a sibling of a kiddo with autism, and he gets it. And she was like starry-eyed sometimes talking to him, like, wow, he understands what my life is like. So we put ourselves in these situations, and Corona kind of just cut that off for us. And you're right, we can get on the screen, we can talk, and we can call each other, but there's something about being with people that is really hard to muddle through. And I wish that I could tell them, hey, one more month, one more day, one more school year. So I think that's the hardest thing, is not to have those answers and to help them process that in a concrete way.
Yes, that has come up in some of our previous talks, that uncertainty about the end line, which I think we could all cope a lot better if we just had that sort of concrete information. Hopefully we have turned the corner. I just saw a news report today, 10% of New Yorkers have been vaccinated. So hopefully we're making some progress, but yeah, that would be just such a game changer to have an end line, you know? Absolutely.
Talia, tell me a little bit about being a sister. What are some ways that you're helpful as a sister, and what are some ways that you feel like you've been helped because you're a sister?
It's hard sometimes because like it's hard when like they can't really control themselves and that they don't process much like we do, and it's hard sometimes when like some of them are like talking in the store or like doing something that wouldn't be as normal as like us. But I do feel kind of proud that that I'm different from the others, and like that there's positives about like them have not having siblings with autism and mine do, and there's some negatives because it's just different. It's not it's not with the crowd. It's taught me to be a better person and try my best in like hard situations.
That's awesome answer. That's awesome that you try so hard in situations because, you know, being a sister, you've learned that, and that you're proud to be a family that has these differences. Those were awesome things to say. And I'm glad you said it, because there's probably other brothers and sisters, maybe even some younger than you, that heard you say that, and maybe they'll feel that way too. So that was really great. Thank you, Talia. Nadia and Isaiah, how do you guys feel about school on the computer?
We thought it was great and wonderful about school, but I didn't go to school the since the COVID-19 began in March. Then I can't go to my school because of the pandemic, but I got homeschooled because school was different. What about you, Nadia?
I talked to Miss Baker on the Zoom, and they say hi to me in this morning in our closing circle, and I went out to you with Miss Maria because she's an OT teacher.
How do you feel about doing school on the computer? What's it like for you?
Going to math, Zoom,
How does it make you feel?
good.
You get to be independent a little bit?
I am depend a little bit because people wear masks at school.
Mhm.
And I talk to friends at Zoom, but not school.
Is that hard sometimes?
Yeah.
That's hard for me sometimes too, but it's okay when school is different.
Not the same.
That's right, Nadia. Not the same.
When something
That's
is
true.
different, it is not same.
That is true. Thank you. Danielle, so March came and school changed abruptly. As you were saying, none of us had preparation. And then the time went on and time went on. And as we got closer to fall, we realized, oh, we're still looking at this, you know, remote learning option. And parents were asked to make decisions on how they wanted, you know, whether how much of remote learning they wanted versus, you know, in person. So tell me a little bit about what your thought process was in making that decision.
It was a really stressful decision for me. I can remember sitting on my front porch, you know, with my phone, with the survey for school, in tears, not knowing if I was going to do the right thing. It was really, really heavy. I went back and forth because we all know that, you know, any kiddo, but especially our kiddos, do best with routine and really familiarity and social opportunity. This is the right thing. This is the right thing kind of on this side. And then I had this other part that was very worried about the toll that it was going to take on them, because the news was talking about this second coming and what it was going to look like, and all of those kids are going to be in school and then right back out. And I knew that the three of these kids rose to the occasion and were rock stars for months prior to that. They did everything I asked. They sat in front of that screen. They worked so hard. And I was worried that the toll of all those changes on them, coupled with the fact that both of them were losing the teachers they knew the year before, and the program that they were in was going to be completely different. No field trips, no Wegmans trips, no swimming. And they weren't ready for that. They were fully aware that when school started, they were going back and everything was going to look exactly as they had left it in March. So as I tried to talk more about that, there was some challenge with that. Like, well, no, I mean, school's where we go to Wegmans on our trips. And school's where I go push into science and I push into chorus. And all of a sudden it wasn't going to be that way. So, I kind of talked it through, and eventually we sat down and we made this decision to have them all fully virtual. And, I think it was the right decision for us in that moment. I knew that they had a point of reference now from March until June, and in summer school they had done it and they had done it well. And I thought, we'll get through this, and I'll advocate to get them back in if things look different. I'll just advocate, because that's what I do, and I'll challenge and I'll say, hey, listen, things have changed. They need to get back in. So we made that decision, and then November came, and the schools prompted us to make a decision for the rest of the year. So right now we are still fully virtual. And both Nadia and Isaiah's school program and teachers are open to them as the dust settles more. They're open to them to come and visit their class and do field like spotting trips outside of their class. So we're looking at that. But it was a really, really challenging decision for me and their dad and my parents, who are a big part of our lives. So it was a lot of talking it out, a lot of tears on my end.
That is completely understandable. And if I can throw in an editorial comment, in that whole discussion, I did not hear one thing about how much this is putting on you. In addition to having to do your own work from home, and now you're assisting in homeschooling and coordinating everything. And just wondering exactly where those extra hours in the day were supposed to come from for you. But that was conspicuously missing from your discussion there. But we all acknowledge it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm blessed that the kids are handling this well. I'm blessed that I have a job that is flexible and that is meeting needs, that allows me to whirlwind the day and then put the kids to bed and sit at the computer and do some paperwork. I have an amazing support system, and without those pieces of my support system, I wouldn't be able to do this. So it is a lot. I got to be honest with you. There's days that I don't know how I'm going to make it through the next 2 or 3. But one of Isaiah's favorite songs is "We're All in This Together," and I try to pull out that hope of that from the beginning, and just keep trucking along. And when I have to have a moment, I've learned through my life, I have that moment, and I don't try to tell myself I shouldn't feel sorry, and I don't try to tell myself not to have the tears. And I have that moment, and I ugly cry, and I get down deep, and I grieve for whatever it is, or I stress about whatever it is, and then I pick myself up and I count my blessings and I keep moving forward, because it's the only option.
That's awesome. I love the way you speak about your life. So amazing. When you were talking about what you did even prior to COVID, and you were talking about making a shift into the job role that you have now, because it gave you more flexibility and time with the family. So that leads me to ask you, what do you think, as a special needs parent, helped prepare you for this pandemic? And what was harder too?
Helped prepare me. That's interesting. I think, so as a special needs parent, you're often in a situation that in real time you have to make accommodations. You have to, on the drop of a hat, change your whole schedule. You have to go another way. You have to stop and buy Cheez-Its. I mean, whatever it is, you have to do it in that moment and keep going. And that's exactly what the pandemic brought, is that we need to keep moving regardless of what's happening. I think it's the flexibility, it's the retaining hope when hope doesn't seem strong. That's what we do. We advocate, and we needed it during this time of not knowing what was happening and what was best. And we're used to those things. We're strong. We have broad shoulders because we carry so much of this daily. This journey is wonderful and challenging every step of the way. And so I think I was prepared to pull in and gain strength and keep pushing forward, no matter what was thrown at us, because that's what we do. No matter what's told to us or what happens, we just keep plugging along. I think what was challenging was, we have to wear masks. We can't go in certain places. We can't do certain things. And, our kiddos have, we help our kiddos have their social life. We help our kiddos have their interactions and their joy. We manage that, and we orchestrate that differently than a parent that has typical children. And so when this stuff happens, it stops some of that. It helps it. Nani and Isaiah have friends, and they do things with friends that I orchestrate, and typically at 15 and 13 that would be different. But now you're taking into consideration a whole other family with another bubble of safety and what that looked like, and we don't want to put somebody else at risk, and we want to protect ourselves and our family. And so I think those are some of the challenging moments. But listen, as a special needs community, we are strong. We have broad shoulders. We are strong. We are resilient. We pull together. We gain strength when there's none, and we find ways to keep moving. And that's exactly what this pandemic caused everybody to have to do.
You wrote something in your narrative that got me choked up when I read it. So I just want to read it real quick and let you know why I got choked up, because it was just so thoughtful and kind of you. And speaking to you now, it makes perfect sense that you would write this, because you have said so many lovely things already. But you wrote, I am in awe of the way Nadia and Isaiah and their sister Talia have made it through this. I feel lucky that they have such a strong responsibility to be good students and to be able to process and understand that there is a lot of changes and that we will get through this. Not everyone on this journey has had that. I feel their pain and the challenge of this. I feel thankful that my child isn't in a residential center and that I was kept away from them for this time. I am not sure my heart would have been strong enough for that. What was so touching to me for you to have said that is, for so much of this pandemic, I've talked about how I was changed. And there were moments where I was raw. And I think that's when change happens. There were moments when I just felt like, how do I do this one more second? And there's no end in sight. And in those moments, I tended to notice other people's pain. And that's where I decided I'm going to start being braver about what I say and less worried about how that is received. And it's something I've talked about since then. It's something that is a big part of why I brought Dr. Bobby in on all of these, is because, he was a confidant of mine and somebody that I leaned on throughout this. But when I read that, it touched me parent to parent, and I felt a little bit of healing in my own journey, because even in your understanding of everything that you've had to carry as mom, as employee, school teacher, all of the roles that you've had to play, I saw that the same thing was happening on your end. When I read that, I felt this like kindred spirit moment where you're acknowledging that, but you're also saying, but I've seen all this too. And for me, that was something, one, I related to because I felt kind of broken open, I would say, over this pandemic. And where I saw it before, and certainly have always been an advocate and tried to help, I was even more raw and more aware of where I can even do better. And I heard that in that paragraph and wanted to tell you that it meant something to me personally to have you write that, and gave me some healing. So thank you for that, first of all. But I guess I would just say then on that note, do you feel like you've grown, or do you feel like the culture is shifting and growing because of the pandemic?
Well, thank you for your kind words, first of all. Well, I think the scary thing that we have no control over simulates autism, because no two children look identical in their journey of autism. This thing grabbed onto some people and they didn't make it out. And this thing grabbed onto some people and they lost their taste and smell, and they were fine. And others, they didn't even know they had it. So to me, the spectrum of autism is very similar to the spectrum of this virus and what it brought to us. And I know that it's not always well received, but that idea of the puzzle piece, because we don't quite know things, nothing's similar. It's similar with the virus, because that's what made it scary, is we didn't know where it was coming from, we didn't know how to fix it. And autism is very similar to that. And the fear I could relate to as a mom, because I couldn't fix it. I could do things to help it. I couldn't fix it. I couldn't take it away. Well, I don't know that I'd want to. But I think that if we can use the vulnerability that people experienced during this pandemic to help teach them about our vulnerable populations, I think that there's a learning moment in there. There's a way to say to them, did you feel hopeless? Did you feel your sense of belonging gone? And did you feel like you had no control over what was happening? Welcome to this journey that we've experienced. Do you understand now? Can you relate? And not in an accusatory way or a cynical way, but just an idea of, do you feel the similarity? Because this is what our lives are like. And I think I always try to teach my children and to be a guiding principle that there's always somebody there that is going through something harder than what we can imagine. I think that's a really crucial place to sometimes go when life gets tough, because when I was in a tough moment, I would pop on Facebook and I'd see Christina's story. Was on here before, but Christina's story that she was going through, or frankly your story of what you were going through, and thinking, my God, if somebody told me I couldn't see my child, and I just got stuck in that and thought, I can go back and I can do this virtual learning for another 2 hours and hit my head, and kind of lose my patience, because, man, that has nothing similar to what Bobby's experiencing in this moment, or Christina's experiencing in this moment, or what another friend is going through, because their child's at home and they have done zero work and they won't engage and they're screaming all day. So there's always somebody else that has a deeper experience that moment, and so that sort of guides us. And I say to the kids all the time, like, we have to find our blessings, because there's always somebody there that is going through something harder. So I guess out of this, I can hope that we can connect some of the dots for people, and we can use this as a reference point, because now that everybody's experienced this, maybe in some of our, when we all pick up and we get ourselves moving again, and life feels a smidge more normal, we can use this as a reference point to teach people about what it's like to be a special needs parent or a family member. Maybe this can be a vantage point for us.
Thank you very much for that. And honestly, I'm saying this honestly, I never drew that connection myself. And as everybody who knows, who watches me lecture, I am an unrepentant thief, and I only steal from the best. And I'm giving you public warning now that I'm now stealing that analogy that you made to help people understand a little better. I honestly never connected those dots myself in terms of the experience, and just consider that stolen now. Mine. I'll give you credit, but I'm going to use it all the time. Thank you.
Hey, I love to share. Absolutely, I love to share. So I'm glad that was helpful.
I thought that parallel was so profound. And I don't want to mess it up by saying anything after. Like, I want to just let that sit in the air because I thought that was profound. So I'm going to close by reading what you wrote in your narrative as a closing, because it's perfect closure and I can't do better. So before I do that, is there anything anyone wants to make sure we include, or that we add? Anything more that you guys want to say?
Anything else that you want to say?
Thank you for that.
Thank you all for the greatest moment you all shared.
So I'm just going to read what you wrote on your narrative to close, because you said it beautifully and I don't want to mess it up by trying to say it better. I won't be able to. You wrote, as I close, I know that this time was uncharted territory for us all, a time like we have never seen and couldn't have imagined. What I can say is that though challenging at best, we autism and special needs parents are highly skilled in this area. We've got this. We do it every day. I'll let you guys add anything that you want to, Bobby and Leanne, before we say goodbye.
No, I don't want to mess it up either.
No, that closing, you couldn't get it any better than that. And you beat me to it, Bobby. If you didn't read it, I was going to. So Danielle always has, she's a dear friend, and she always has such great words of wisdom and compassion. And it just spilled forth in her narrative. So I just want to encourage everybody to go to our website at specialneedscovid.com, and you can go and read Danielle's narrative there of her family's exploration during this pandemic. And you can read the narratives of some of the others' experiences during this time. So please go to specialneedscovid.com. And that concludes today's COVID conversation with Bobby Rogers and Dr. Bobby Newman. We want to thank today's guests, the Hudson family, Nadia, Isaiah, Talia, and Danielle, for joining us and giving us the family perspective on life during this pandemic. So everybody take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. Bye.
Bobby.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you. You want to hit end?
I agree.
I do.
Bye, Bobby.
Bye, Bobby.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye tomorrow.